Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the last video about data tables, we looked at how you can export HTML data, plain HTML data, and make it as a full working HTML table with options like save the table, like copy, CSV, and Excel options, PDF and print with pagination. In case you missed that video, you can go back. I tagged the video in the description, so you can be able to click on the top of this video and see that video. So in that last video, we were looking at how to get these extra options on any table using DATATABLES.net, a free library used by DATATABLES. So you can be able to visit their website now and follow that last video in case you missed it. But I want to welcome you back in this yet another exciting video where we shall be looking at how we can instead export this table data from the database in case you're looking forward to learning database operations. So this time around, we don't want this to be plain HTML data because it's already written here. It's already provided in the code. So we just want to fetch whatever is in database and we display it here instead, so it won't have to be static data. So stay tuned on this video, stay up with me at the end of this video, and I promise you by the end of this video you shall be able to fetch data from database while displaying it here in the same table. So first thing first, we shall open for my case I'm using local XAMPP server. So you can use any other servers like WAMP or any virtuous, and I'll be using Sublime Text Editor for this. So the first thing I'll do, I'll go straight to my so I'll just close this tab because this functionality is almost done. So I'll open another tab and I go to, in this case I'm going to use a MySQL database, and it's a perfect suit for most of the developers out there. So I just come and say localhost, and I go straight to my PHP my admin, or even you can type just localhost localhost PHP my admin. So PHP my admin will open and we shall be able to create database, and after creating a database we shall create a table within the database with our best table attributes. We shall be also able to add some dummy data within the table, and after that we shall be able to write PHP code to fetch data from that MySQL table, and the data will be displayed right here instead of the static data using while loop, and to be a good way to go. So I'll just come back here and type localhost PHP my admin. Don't know why it's taking too long to open, because my Apache is already running and MySQL is fully up and running. So I'll be able to open my PHP my admin, MySQL, whatever you call it, my database. So this is the home page of PHP my admin. So I'll just come straight here and go to databases. This is a list of all my databases available here. So I'll create a new database and I'll call it DATATABLE. DATATABLES, and I click create. I'll need to create a new table, and I'll call it my table. Be mindful of every spelling you use, because that's something important. So to have how many columns, I'll come back to my table and I'll see 1 2 3 4 5 6. So 6 columns, and I'll add the 7th for the ID, and I'll say create. After clicking create, I'll be taken to where I put my table attributes. First things first, I'll put my ID. Most times it's very necessary to be an integer. I would say 20 or 29 or any value you give it. Now make it an auto-incremented value so that it becomes unique every time there is a new record to be able to help us. So this next will be name, position, office, age, and start date. So I'll just put name. This will be a varchar because it's a combination of characters. The next will be position, still it will be a varchar. I'll give it 200 characters too. The next will be office, still varchar office, varchar 200. Age will be an integer. Age will be an integer because of course it can't be 2.5 years or it can't be 29.3 years. So I'll make this an int for those purposes, and I'll give it 20 characters or length or values. I'll go to start date. Start, I'll name it as underscore date to be a date, to simply be a date, and I don't need to give it any value, and I will say end date, still to be a date. I won't give it any value. I'll just go and save my table to create my basic table. I remember I named it as my table, so I'll go to my table. For now there's no data at all, but we need to insert some dummy data so as we can we can be able to retrieve what we see. The first one will be array, so 2. Position accountant. I'm just basically copying this. Office Tokyo. Office Tokyo. Age 33. Here I'll just put any date, end date. So I'll go and insert a second data. I'll just name it NestWave. Position, developer, office tech. Let me say age, let me just put 24. Start date, just choose any date, and I'll choose the end date. So I'll click go to add this dummy data. So you can see that 2 rows inserted, so you have 2 rows. So I just need about 11 rows, so I'll just redo this. I'll just keep doing this so that I get as many values as I can, and I'll name this as honest position accountant office. Let me say New York. I'll leave those to be like that. Maybe the age I'll give 93. The other I'll give Adam. So Adam is an accountant. Office, finance. Yeah. So just keep doing this one more time. I'll paste this here and I'll paste another one just like that. So for now let me just stop there, and I'll just click on go so that more data is added. I'll browse my table. I'll go to browse to see what I have. You can see that now I have at least 14 records in my table. You can see that it's showing 0 to 13, 14 total. So I have 14 total as that query was run. So I'll go back straight to my table. Still, even if I refresh here, still there's nothing because of all these ones is static data. But with time we're going to be able to import this very data in this database table make it dynamic to come straight to our table. So I'll head back straight to my code, and first of all I'll establish a connection. I'll use PHP for that. If you're good at PHP, and if you're a basic beginner in PHP, so I'll just come. Alright, let me just come here. I'll open my PHP and I'll close it straight away. As a good coding practice, you open close straight. And first things first, we shall need to establish a connection to the database. And as I had told you, we shall be also able to write our query to actually fetch the records from the database, and we shall result it, then use a use. Then we shall be able to use our while loop to get each record in the table. So I'll say establishing connection to DB using MySQLi method. So we shall use this MySQLi. Sorry, it's MySQL connect. Yeah. So we shall be connect. I'll define a new data variable and I'll call it data is equal to MySQLi connect, and you can see that this MySQL connect is a global variable used by PHP, where you can MySQLi, use MySQLi connect, and as the parameters we shall have the database, we shall have the server, which will be localhost, we shall have the user, we shall have the password, and we shall also be having the database name. First of all, it will be, I'll just write its syntax. It is parameterized as 4. It has 4 parameters, and I'll say we are connecting to localhost. User is root, password is null, and database we shall give the name we named our database, and it will be DATATABLES. Be mindful about each and every spelling you use. Yeah, so for that, this is what we have. Doing this after defining our data connection variable. I told you this is the server. I just wanted to write it in one full line. So this is the server we are using, which is localhost. The user is root. We have no password, so the password remain null, and the database is called DATATABLES. So maybe we shall check and say if this connection is not successful, then maybe we shall say there is an error. So if it's not $data, if it's not $data, then the connection failed. I'll just say connection. Sorry, I'll just say echo connection to DB failed. So this is what I'll echo. So for now, I'll first run this code and we see. So you see you still have the same thing like what we had before, but now I'll try to destroy something here. Let me say I delete one character from the database name, and I'll run this. So it will be able to say that's a fatal error, unquote MySQL exception and unknown database, this one. So you can see now that the table is is okay. So you can see that we put back our data tables. Maybe I'll say if connection is successful, then I'll say echo to DB successful. This is basic PHP codes should know. So you can see here it gives us a message of connection to DB successful. So I don't need to test that. The aim is to fetch data into the table. So this step is right, but for best practices, I urge you just to to always start your code with the the PHP first, then the rest will come later, and then the JavaScript always last. So just put here my code, then HTML will follow. So after establishing the connection to the database, we shall write our query, database query, these basic database queries, to get the data, whatever data that's in our table, to get it, and then result it here onto our code. Then we shall echo it straight into our data table, and that's the main issue, and that's the main reason for today's video. And if you like what I'm doing, please consider leaving a subscribe button, and in case you didn't understand anything, I'll be leaving the source code and everything you'll need in the description. So I'll say making the database query. So we shall query database, and I'll say I'll just give any name. Let me say get $get. I'm starting a variable for selecting what's in the database, so I'll just call it get, and I'll write a basic database query where I'll select a list, or I'll select all from what's our database name, no, rather from the database table, from my table. You can check that whatever name you gave to your table is what you write here. So it's my table, single T, from my table. You can even stop there, or maybe you can order it so that it follows the ID specified in the table. Order by ID, desk. So it is ordered by ID in the descending order. That's why I've put the word desk. So I'll stop my query there, and I'll result my query with our database connection variable, whereby I'll define a new variable called result. So I'll say result of whatever is coming out of the query is equal to my SQLi query, my SQLi underscore query. This is a global variable that is used to result. These are these are queries from phpMyAdmin or MySQL database, so it's already reserved already. Don't need to define it. And I'll just bring my connection variable, which was data, and I'll put the second parameter, which will be the get query. So you can see that it's already coming up. So you can see that this is what I have. Well, after doing that, we shall go straight to our table, because we are selecting records from the database. So this time round, I won't need this dummy data, but instead I'll delete the rest of the table rows, because we only need one table row, and that's what we shall loop to make sure we get whatever record. So the number of records in the database, that's how the table row will be repeated. So we'll need to write a while loop to loop each and every record that is existing in the database. So I just come here and I'll define a new PHP code, and I'll say I need a while loop. While I press enter to get the basic structure of the while loop, and I'll define a new variable called info. This will give us the information coming from the database, and I'll say while info is equal to $result. Result was the result of what we got from the query and the data connection variable. So while result is has any associative variable, then we shall loop through our table. So for that case, we shall use fetch assoc. Sorry about the spelling. Fetch underscore assoc. So we want to fetch the associative data that's coming straight from there. While $info is equal to the result variable, fetch the assoc of this. So you can see that the while loop stops from here, but we want this table data as the table row to be within the while loop, so that it can be repeated as many times as the number of records in the database table. So for that case, I'll remove this closing parenthesis of this while loop, and I put it at the end, but I'll need to define a PHP here because we are coming out of PHP. I'll be able to explain that after. So I'll just close this, and I'll I will close this from here. So here, this is HTML code. So HTML code is sitting within the PHP code. That's why the while loop, we've decided to put it straight in the HTML code, so that this table row is repeated as many times as it can be, as related to elements in the database. So you can see that this is opening and it's being closed here. So I stopped PHP here and I went back to HTML and I was able to write the table row. So I'll go straight to my PHP and I close it here. So as long as there are a number of elements in this table, do this. I hope you understand, guys. So for now, I've saved this first. So it means this will be repeated as many times as what's in the table. So let's run this and you see what you have so far. So you can see that it's being repeated, that are showing 1 to 10 or 14 entries, because we're repeating this same thing, because we have 14 entries in our database table. Yeah, we have 14 entries in our database table. That's why this is being repeated and is showing 14 records. But what we need to do, we need to get actual table row by row as it exists in the database. So I'll just come here and I'll delete this. I'll try to fetch the first row and I'll set just the table data. Then I'll be able to just open PHP again, PHP, and I'll close it straight right there. But within here PHP, I want to echo what's in the database, and I'll say echo our string. I'll open this parentheses. I want you to watch the syntax of how I do everything, and I'll get the info variable. The info variable is just this, as I had defined it, whereby the info is now becoming an array of what table attributes we have in the database. And as the table attributes we have in the database, I'll get the first, which was name, and I will write name. Yeah, I'll write name enclosed in this I don't know what you call them, literally can't separate them, but double single quotes. Yeah, so I'm going to repeat the single quotes. So I need to do this because this actually goes with this. Yeah, so I need to repeat that for position, office, age, up to start date. Yeah, so I'll just copy this and I'll copy it 1 2 3 4 5 times. 1 2. Yeah, so I'll have name. What else is coming on board right here? Position, office, age, start date and end date. Age, start underscore date. You write them exact way how you wrote these table attributes. You say end date and underscore date. So you can see that everything here has its corresponding table data here. So I'll save this and I'll be running this. This is what you have, and I run this. So you can see that this is what I have. And even if I try to go to the next page, you can see that everything, the way it's showing here, that's the way it's showing here. So I can be able to sort this. Yeah, sort by office, Excel, print. You can do a lot of things with this. It's just so amazing, and you can try it out. So if you like this, consider liking this video. You can even add more data, but the more data you add here is what you get here. So this is what we have, but make sure this number is matching with this, because if you don't, data tables will throw an exception, because we are using data tables libraries. So if I save this header are not the same as the table data, and I run this will just say data tables warning with the ID example requested unknown parameter for 4 has 0 rows, 4 columns. So it won't run unless, so every other functionality will die straight. So you need to, you're gonna make sure that everything here is matching. So I'll save this, and that's what we have. This is the source code, so you can notice that it's just shorter than the other first thing we made. Yeah, it's just very short than the other. So it's a better way to, in case you're handling form data, you can be able to maybe make forms, HTML forms, where you can able to collect that data, store it in your database. You want to display it somewhere. DATATABLES is a very good way for you to go, plus MySQL database. But this is what we have so far. In case you don't like any of these buttons, maybe I want only Excel, print, and PDF buttons, I'll just delete this and I'll save this. So I'll come and refresh. You can see now I only have 3 buttons, so you can be able to play around with this as you use MySQL and PHP. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time, and I'll leave everything you need in the description, and everything will go smoothly. But I am begging you to subscribe. I'm kindly, just for the support. This is my new channel. Please consider subscribing and liking plus sharing, and I'll be so glad.